Oh, hello. Whew. Nursel's here. Welcome. Alright, so last time I was making the game for Ludum Dare, and then we were playing some Ludum Dare games. So I don't know if there are still people who are there looking for a streamer to play their games. If there are, I might play some games from Ludum Dare today. And if not, I'm going to be working on the minicast a little bit. To fix some of the issues that I saw while making the game for the Ludum Dare. What happened to the Factorio? I'm just going to do a short stream. I might come back later today with Factorio too. Yeah. This one is going to be short. I'm just going to stream for like a couple hours. I mean, and like by a couple, I mean 2 hours, maybe. So, yeah. Let's open up the code for the mega honk over here, right? So this is the game. If you have not seen the game that I made for the Ludum Dare, it looks like this. Yes, so this is the game that we made for Ludum Dare with minikast and raylib. Oh, by the way, speaking about raylib, like literally a couple days after the Ludum Dare was over, I saw that there is a new release of raylib. So we were using raylib 5. Is there like news, a change log? Of course not. But I know that there is the release of raylib, release number 6, raylib 6. Maybe we can see it on GitHub. 1 hour ago, they updated our text. Raylib version 6, 4 days ago. There we go. Maybe they have the changelog over here. All right, yeah, look at this. the biggest Raylib release ever. So I think there is this new software render, which we don't really care about, but I guess could be used for the CI, for testing things, which, by the way, I always wanted to have in my engine. I just never got to it. Yeah. And platform backend memory, that's whatever. Windows 32. So this thing maybe is the biggest thing, right? Because I was struggling a little bit with Emscripten and doing the JavaScript. So now they have the dedicated Emscripten JavaScript functionality, right? So would that work better than my custom like fixes, I guess, that I was doing? The support for the new software renderer to draw directly on a non-accelerated 2D canvas, but also support WebGL core accelerated canvas when required. Backend is new and could require further testing. Use it an experimental backend for now, right? Redesigned full screen modes and high DPI content scaling. After many years, the full screen and high DPI content scaling support has been completely redesigned from scratch. The design prioritizes borderless full screen modes and automatically detects the current monitor content scale configuration to scale window and frame buffer accordingly when required. Still high DPI. Blah 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 blah. Skeletal animation. Right. File system API, text management API, 70 plus new examples, because they don't want to do documentation, they want examples instead for some reason. But okay. 1 billion contributors. Great. So let's try to see if I can just upgrade. First, if I go to the NixOS and I find the Raylib, is it already updated, do you think, to version 6? No, it is not. Okay. So can I though? I can probably just like change the revision and like with an overlay very easily. Speaking about the platform script, and if they supported it natively, then do I need to do something? I'm not sure. Right, because I was, among other things, building it for the inscription manually over here, the Raylib web. And this package is actually being packaged in my cast for some reason. Yeah, I guess because of the example. That's okay. Yeah, but maybe we don't need that anymore. Hello, I'm Soft. Is there a pull request saying Raylib? I mean, there probably is, right? No, actually, there is not, unless it's closed. Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Nix packages to update, but let's try basically to, so like this Raylib over here, right? We're going to have an overlay here. Oh, no. We don't even do that. We say something like Raylib.override attributes. Yeah, something like that is what we want. Maybe. And the attributes is going to be Source revision, I guess. Source revision. And we're just going to do the revision. This one. Might as well like just try the master branch. There's a couple more commits. What is this? Text I, text J, of course. Of course. Text remove spaces. They added the function and they didn't test it or something, right? So they had a bug. And they fixed it. Okay. That's fine. That's not the one that I'm going to be using anyway, but this API I'm not using, but let's use the latest master branch like that. Source SHA. No, I need hash. Life is too short to test functions. Yeah. Okay, so let's just see. Is it going to be built? I guess this means that I'm going to need to build it from the source, the Raylib, instead of downloading the pre-built library. Variable source or sources should point to the source. Oh, wait. Are they saying that I should still... Yeah, if I override the attribute, then I should still put the entire source here. It doesn't, like, merge the thing, right? Which means that I still need to have all of these things. Yeah, because it's fetched from GitHub, actually. Right? Fetch from GitHub. Like that. No. Hello, Pigorlim. He was literally just writing a test, but it passed. And he was looking for a bug. You have tests? No way. Alright, so over here is going to download it. Then it's going to tell me the error. Wait, what? Why did it clear the screen? Yeah, this over here is the hash that I actually need. You have a whole 2 tests now in closed light. Nice. I guess we also need to say that a version here is going to be 6.0, right? Of the Raylib. It's going to tell me what it's doing. Dear Nix. Or am I compiling Raylib already? No. I'm not doing it yet. Is it just not doing anything? There we go. We're going to compile Raylib 6. Can I change Nix so it shows more than one line? And Nix show more than one line of current logs. I don't know. Hello, Infinite Coder. Oh my god. Fatal error. X11 extensions xrender. No such file or directory. Which is weird. Right? Did they add a new dependency? Which they were not depending on previously? So X11 xrender is a new dependency in Raylib. Is that right? All right, like we have libx11. Yeah, build inputs is just libx11, right? But we need the Raylib 6 xrender. I mean, I'm thinking that I just need to add it, right? Xrender, just xrender. Should it be libxrender? Libxrender extension library. So yeah, we also need to override the attributes using the old attributes, I think. Which means that over here we need to say propagated build inputs is libxrender, right? Like that. No, it's going to be old attributes propagated build inputs plus what is it plus plus? I don't remember Nix to do the appending. I think it is plus plus. I'm not sure though. It's been a while since I did that. Seems like it's working. Okay. Building C. It did not crash immediately, so maybe this is still not exactly correct. All right, there we go. How quickly is Raylib building? Let's see. This is pretty fast moving percentage. Still slower than compiling minikast though from scratch. And this is written in C, right? How much code do they have in Raylib, by the way? I'm wondering. Let me clone this. How big is Raylib? It's 200 megabytes, at least. All right, let's try running here, right? So this is me just like using the Raylib 6 now. I don't know if we can like run the old code without any changes on Raylib 6. Maybe we can. Seems like we can. But I don't see the window anymore. I hear the audio. Where's my window? Display initialized successfully. Display size. This. Screen size and render size 800 by 600. Window. I just see no window. Is it on some other weird... No. It is not anywhere. Okay, it does compile, but it doesn't work. Got it, got it. So I need to figure out what exactly is wrong. Is the cheat sheet updated, do you think? Is there any new bindings? Why does it say unexpected text? What is this? LSP info. Oh, there is no LSP info anymore. How do I find the logs? How do I find the... which one is it? Is it thinking that this is not the minicast but something else? Oh my god, why is Vim broken all the time? Yeah, there is definitely no window, right? I mean, unless it's behind. Nope. Neo Vim LSP info. Without LSP config. Is there such a thing? LSP info command without LSP config. It's check health Vim LSP. Let's see. Check health Vim LSP. Okay. Active clients. NixD. Yes. Why does it think that it's Nix? Okay. I think that's my cast not configured properly though. Right? Because if I open the minicast first, then it's going to be fine. Right, because, yeah. Yeah, this is me misconfiguring the LSP, but who knows how to configure it properly. So what we're doing is we're just initializing the window, right? Should I not initialize, but also, like, show it or something now? The release notes don't say anything about it, I think. Like, I know that they are now prioritizing the borderless full screen, right? Borderless full screen is now prioritized. This is the new modules completely. And what are the changes to the existing modules? We don't see that. There is no proper changelog, or is it? Is there a changelog file maybe somewhere? There is. Okay, maybe if I look at this, relib 6, okay, key changes are those, detailed changes, all right. Init windows, fixed issue when using an empty window title, issues to unchecked result of init platform. How do I even figure out what is wrong? What we do is we just initialize window and that's it, right? Like and then I'm making the window to be resizable, by the way. By the way, am I supposed to set the window to be resizable before or after I create it? No one knows that. Initialize backend, I think, is doing nothing. Yeah, initialize backend is literally doing nothing. So this is all we have. And it should just work. If I look in the logs here, we have successfully initialized the platforms and stuff. Alright, let's look it up. Maybe Raylib 6, a window, is invisible. Raylib here, maybe? What is this? Flag window always run. What does that even mean? Why is there such a flag? Let's take a look at the header file. Always run. Set to allow windows running while minimized. Okay, that's not what we want. No. So it doesn't even work on the native out of the box anymore, does it? Maybe I should try something, some simpler thing. You know, what if we just make a very simple thing? So we just do initialize the window, right? And then we do a main loop of frame 2, for example. You know, I'm just going to make an empty window, right? So all we do is we initialize the window, and then we call this function on every frame, which is just Raylib begin drawing, Raylib end drawing, and clearing the background using the black color, right? Like this should definitely work. And then we just close here, return from this function, so it should be nothing. Except for the black screen. And main loop is a function which looks like this. It's just literally an infinite loop, which is while Raylib window should not, if Raylib should close, then we break the loop, and that's it. Yes, and I definitely don't see the window. I mean, I could try to do this C exactly, like just C, maybe, instead of trying to do this on the yeah. Let's do the simple C file, test.c. So we include raylib.h, we say int main, right? Init window 800 600. Hello Raylib 6, please work. And then we say while not window should close. We say begin drawing, we say end drawing, and clear background using the black color, right? Like this. And then we do gcc test.c lraylib, and then we do a.out, and as you can see, there is no window, so it doesn't work anymore. Why does Raylib not work anymore, basically? Am I the only one who's having this issue? Did I compile it incorrectly? I mean, I just compiled the Raylib 6 from source, from the latest master branch, right? Let's see. Like, there is no way. I'm not even saying the resized window anymore, right? Am I supposed to say something like maybe I'm supposed to select the platform or something? I'm not sure. Let's take a look at the examples. Fine. Examples. Right? A basic window. There you go. Right? Like if I copy this, surely it should work. Surely it should work, right? Why can I not copy this? Why can I not select the text? Wait, is it lagging here? I think this web page is lagging on Raylib or something. It selects it after 1,000 seconds. Okay, so this is literally the example. You create your first window. Let's try that. Let's try that. Nope. Nothing works. Unless the example has not been updated yet, or I'm doing something wrong. Or it doesn't work on Wayland for some reason. It literally doesn't work anymore. Am I supposed to report this as an issue? Or did I do something wrong? Wayland. Opening this issue to get non-properly working examples reported. I tried to compile an example on Windows, Linux, and web, and also updated examples with latest version. Hello, Ogma. Software render feature opens a black and responsive window on Linux 3 days ago. Well, I'm not doing the software rendering though, right? What's weird is that if I look at this, then it like detects things properly. It just doesn't support the window position and window things, right? But it should still open the window. Maybe I need to make the window visible explicitly or something. Is there such a thing even? No, there's also the cursor visibility. Flag window hidden. Set to hide the window. Well, I'm not doing that, right? By default, all flags are 0. Okay, Raylib doesn't work anymore. Good release. How do I confirm though that it's not my issue? Ideally, we try this also on a different. Linux or something. Oh wait, hold on. Raylib is Raylib. What is this? This might be the issue here. What is this Raylib used for? Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Because over here, I'm just... Yeah, it doesn't matter for the C file. I'm not using these. But Raylib... Yeah, this is just for setting up what I need to include when I'm compiling from Scripton. And it's not even used for native builds anyway. Can I force an X11 or something? How do I do software render, for example? Also forcing. How do we force things in Raylib? Raylib force X11. Instead of Wayland. No. Hello, bad cop. Are you done with your Godotting? So I was trying to update my Raylib from Raylib 5 to Raylib 6, which was just released a couple days ago, and nothing works anymore. And there is and looking up information, official documentation for the Raylib is impossible because it doesn't exist. You found bugs? Nice. Did you fix the bugs? Did you write tests to prevent the bugs in the future? You did an even better thing? You open an issue and let someone else fix the bug? Nice. Yeah, I'm considering opening an issue here, but can you try Raylib 6 yourself real quick? Or something? How do I try it myself without using Nix? So, like, I need a virtual machine or whatever. Is it easy to try? I mean, I don't know, actually. Is there installation instructions? You're using Ubuntu, right? Like, all required libraries are included into Raylib, so all you need, in theory, is just to... do that. Oh, maybe I need to make it specifically? Hold on. Can I build my game, or is that hard? Building my game? Well, I mean, to build my game, you can just use the Nix Flake, but... Oh, actually, yes. Hold on. What if you just try to Nix run? You have the Nix package manager installed, right? You can... I mean, you cannot just Nix run, maybe. Because I didn't do the package for it. But you can, like... you can just Nix develop dot command just run, I guess, right? And this is, like, after cloning, is supposed to run it. But let me just do over here. Maybe I need to do a new branch. Git checkout branch Raylib 6 then, which I would commit to that one, right? Raylib 6. There we go. So, like, if you try the Raylib 6, then it should work. I'm not sure how many things you're going to download, though, because this is going to download cast, which is going to download a camel to build cast first. So it's going to take a while, I suppose. You have fast internet, yes, but it's going to also build the things from scratch. It's not just, like, it's going to build a camel from scratch, I'm pretty sure, if you do that. But, yeah. You just do Nix command... Nix develop command and just run like this after cloning, and I think it's supposed to work. I mean, I can also make the binary package, I guess. Maybe. Can I make the binary package? Packages default is... Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, like, a little bit easier to do that, I suppose. I'm too lazy to do that. Hello, Pomo. Okay, so... Nix seg faulted. What? Nix seg faulted? I never had that. I should seg fault, or maybe like something else. Yeah, this over here is too difficult instruction. Do I have Nix? Oh, look at this. They have Nix. Begin by downloading. Oh, that's not the way of Nix. Create a flake. Dependencies. Audio dependencies. Yeah, this is just making the dependencies. Okay. Well, I mean, that's one way to do things. These instructions are still for relib 5.5, by the way, and not for relib 6. That's okay. It core dumped. I don't know. You broke it. Probably. Or something. Or our Ubuntu update broke it. Something. I'm not sure. Hello, Nigel. Alright, I think we can give up on Relib 6 actually, because it doesn't work. I might... What are the other options that I have? Oh, yeah, I was like going to look at Raylib and see what they do, right? They do deplatform is platform, and platform is desktop. So we do platform is desktop. CMake flags. CMake build options. Platform desktop, web, Android, Raspberry Pi, SDL. GLFW build Wayland. Build the bundle GLFW with Wayland support. And we're using external GLFW, by the way. I don't think that's the problem though, is it? I mean, I can also try, I guess, just updating everything. You know, like Nix flag update. Maybe can fix something potentially. Yeah, I guess one of the things that I could try is I could just boot into a window manager with X11 instead of Wayland and see if it works there for some reason. And if not, then it's definitely the... If it is, then it's the Wayland specific issue. If not, then it's just a general issue. But if it doesn't work here, I'm just going to give up and do something else. Okay, we're just going to download a gigabyte of it here, it seems. Sure. Why not? Oh, Nigel, maybe you can try it. Can you try to build and run my game? And with Raylib 6, there is a Raylib 6 branch now. So I'm just wondering if it would work for you, but not for me. Nerdsoul, you can also try. You're doing the Nix OS, but maybe you are on a different like version of the system or whatever. you're supposed to just basically clone it and do this command, I guess. What's the repo? It's Cookieman Mega Honk. OpenGDK. Why is there OpenGDK and closure compiler that's necessary in my dependencies here, actually? Who is depending on it? There was the JDK that's downloaded. $50 megabytes of music. Yeah, it's WAV files which don't have the compression, I guess. All right, let's try again. So like the game like the audio is there, but the window is just invisible. So me updating anything doesn't make a difference. So I don't think... Yeah, I'm just going to not update, whatever. And like even with just C code, the example doesn't work. You did Nick Store GC for the first time, cleared 100 gigabytes. Do you want me to try this right now? I'm doing Nick's collect garbage. Is that different? That Nick Store GC? I'm not sure. It's going to delete a bunch of things now. I'll let you know what are the numbers when it's done. Does GitHub not even detect NKS files in the wrong language? I don't remember. Yeah, I think it doesn't detect it as anything. Cookieman Mega Honk. Right, it just doesn't see it as the files. It thinks that HTML is 75%, which is just a single little file there. So yeah. All right, let's ignore the things. I'll switch back to main. And instead of trying to do the Raylib 6, we are going to fix minikast a little bit, maybe. And I already did stream for an hour, and I was going to only stream for 2 hours, so maybe we will not get anything done today at all. But let's see. I want something. There you go. See, Raylib 5 still works. And Raylib 6 doesn't. Alright, I think the worst thing that I have is this over here. This is cursed. So, because we are trying on Imscripten specifically, right? The main loop is done using the Imscripten set main loop thing, right? Where I am passing the function, which is going to be called on every frame, basically, right? But we need to call this function with the contexts which were available when I'm calling the main loop. So I'm saving this into global variables and then loading them. And this is cursed over here. So what we should do instead is we should use the Imscripten set main loop with argument. set main loop with argument, this function, which is also going to take the argument to the function that I'm calling. And this argument is going to be my context, basically, that needs to be called, right? Yeah. Frame impulse, right? So we have like this function which is being called, and over here I'm initializing a new context instead of using the existing context. That's the whole issue. Yes. So we need to change that to be not a C call convention, but a regular function. So we already have the context as an implicit argument already. And what is this preserve frame function? Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah. Yeah, preserve frame function is probably fine for now. That's a separate issue. But I just want the frame impl to be the function that just calls that function, which technically means that I'm just calling that function with the context, right? So technically it should be just, and so this over here is a closure, which technically has the context. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see why we need that. So this is a function which is just calling that function. Sure. Implicit context, opaque type, we don't need that. We don't need this. And we don't need to do that. Okay, so this is the only cursed thing that is left, supposedly. Okay, but we need to do set main loop with arg, right? So what is this argument that I'm building a camel compiler? Well, it's weird. Were you not working on the oh, you run the GC? I see. So you deleted the thing. Everything is gone. Well, and that is why, by the way, the derenv helps. So when you are doing the nix develop, it is like it's not adding it as a root. So the GC just deletes everything, right? But because I'm using the derenv with use flake, right? This technically creates a new root, so that garbage collector doesn't delete the last environment that I was using for my projects. I'm pretty sure that the root is like somewhere over here in .derenv, somewhere like one of these files, just the roots. So yeah, I'm not sure if you can like have the same functionality with just nix develop. Maybe you need to like manually add the roots so that it doesn't get garbage collected. But yeah. All right, so this is the main settlement loop argument. What is the argument here to this function? And the argument is supposed to be the context, right? The current context, and that is the missing feature in the minikast. We need to make sure that I can refer to the current context as a variable. And I was also thinking that in general, so we have this thing called current state, for example, right? But what is the current state? This is supposed to be basically a field of the context, right? So what if we instead had context dot state, right? So, and this would be more explicit. That this is the field of the context object, right? instead of saying current, and then we don't need the current keyword at all. But this is kind of like special still. I mean, we can just make this to be a different syntax for yeah, instead of the current. That's what I'm saying. Okay, let's open the cast. It's running, you can hear audio, but you cannot see the window. Makes sense. That's the same for me. And that's in Raylib 6. In Raylib 5, no, you cannot see the window. Yeah, that's the same issue that I'm having. So Raylib 6 just doesn't show the window for some reason. But you're also running NixOS, so whatever might be the issue is because of that. But I mean, most likely it doesn't matter. Do you have a window manager with X11 instead of Wayland also installed? Like I could do that, but I would need to end the stream then to test. You're not relaunching into GNOME. Works fine on main, right? Makes sense. All right, so we want to. I guess I will do the. Yeah, I need to have the mini syntax to have the just context keyword. Right, so right now we can specify the context. Yeah. This is like me specifying the context field, which if I use that syntax with the context dot, I think I would want to change this syntax too. But let's see, syntax, context. I guess I just have a singular context keyword, and that is it. The only thing is that with the current context, I guess, yeah, whatever. Let's keep that syntax the same for now, and this is going to be a dedicated one. All right. Let's do the mini test. Mini test, right? So what we want is to have a function which works like this, right? And yeah, I basically want to have function foo. Maybe we have a C call convention function foo, or not even C calling convention, but something. Yeah, what if I have the function which has the context, which is explicit context, and I guess I also need a way to specify the type of the context, which is going to be context like that. Well, am I going to have the actual context like as a thing though on all of the backends? Maybe. But I'm not sure yet. It is right now though, so yeah, maybe. So yeah, let's have a function like this. So this is a dedicated type, which is the context, the type of the context, right? And because this is not a C calling convention, it means that we actually have two separate contexts available here: the implicit context, and this is the explicit context, right? So yeah, I can do something like. Yeah, and I want to call the function foo using the I guess we could also do like current context instead of saying the context variable like that. Maybe that would be better. I'm not sure. But yeah, if I do this, so we explicitly take the current context and do it here. And then let's say that I have the actual context, right? So we have the context, right? You know, I don't know. Some context is a context of string, right? And I say that some context is equal to hello world, right? So I want over here to say print string something like that. So print string current some context. Okay, let's get rid of this for now, right? Because this is, we say cast mini compile target C. We will just minikast tests mini test, right? Like this. No, is that gone? Or do we just C? Yeah. There we go. So this prints hello world. This prints hello world. And then we want to do this explicitly. Context, and context is context. Okay. Yeah. So let's have context and can I say context object and context object type maybe? So we have capitalized context and lowercase context with an at maybe. And that's something that I need to implement. All right. Source types. So I need to have a new type in the language of the minikast, which is going to be called the context object, right? That one is pretty special. I don't have any inner things there. Yeah. I don't. And in the compiler type parse, so we are saying that if rule name is equal to context object type, right, then the type is context object. That's what we return. Okay, and the context object itself is not a type but an expression. So I'm going to add a new expression. Context object parse context object. So return shape. This is always going to be in. Well, should this even be an expression or a place expression? I'm not sure. Let's make it an expression, and we have the expression called context object, right? And the type of it is the context object. And that's all that I need. Which means that I have a new expression type. It might need to be a place expression instead, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it actually has to be a place expression. That's a place. Just place, not place expression. Like that. So we have a new place expression which is called the context object. What about the example? Mini test. Right? So we need to basically, instead of saying current some context, I want to say context dot context dot some context, right? Because like this basically over here is the field of the context object. That's what we specify here. And then we can try printing it twice, right? So all of these three must be the same. Current some context, current some context, context dot some context, and context some context, right? And we might get rid of this, and this is just like explicitly through this stored thing, which might be different from the current context, right? Yeah. But these all three should be the same functionally. Yeah, so this is already being parsed properly. If I try to compile this, I need to recompile the actual thing though. But I mean, let's do just build continuous here. It's going to take a while to compile this. But I need also in the C backend to do that, right? To handle these things. So we have a new place expression over here, which is going to be the context object, right? This is the place expression. So what do we need to do here? We need to return a place, right? We need to return a place. Do I have any helpers for places? Maybe not. Like find identifier, right? No, we don't do that. That's okay. So the context object, we just need to return something like this. Wait. It failed? How did it fail? It crashed the LSP. Okay, whatever. So we're returning the get and set, and this the identifier is basically in this case going to be what? I need current scope context variable, and this is the identifier, right? Let ident expression is this. So I have identifier which refers to the current scope context variable. Yeah, that is pretty simple. What does this say? Data and not data does not match. Context object. Yeah, context object doesn't have any extra data. The then we have the type, right? Then we have the type. What was it called? we call it convert type. There we go. So convert type returns my type into the CAST type. So if this type is the context object, then so in C I'm literally just generating the context type, and that's all that I need. Right? Well, actually it's supposed to be a pointer, right? It's supposed to be a pointer. Or is the... Yeah, it depends like what I want, but my variables are of this type. But we might want to have the context type to be actually the context object itself, in which case we just like in this example, this should be a reference to context, so we like, yeah, so the context is what? The context is the dereferenced then current context, right? Because current context is stored in with a reference. Yeah, that actually makes sense. Yeah, because if I do the dot, it means that this is the actual struct, right? We don't want to dereference that first. Yes. So yeah, actually, I think this is yeah. Let's just say struct context here. Yeah, that makes sense. But then the context object expression, which is the place, should be the dereferenced identifier, which is this scope of context var, because I'm storing a reference there. Yes, that makes sense. Maybe. Let's recompile, see what's going to happen. I cannot use the dot syntax though yet, because it's going to say that it doesn't have the fields or whatever, the context type, which I might need to have some printing. Yeah, over here when I'm printing the context object type, right? And say just output right context. Okay. This is as identifier. Oh wait, as identifier should just be context, I guess. But print type name. Right, this should be just add context. Okay. Let's see, just see this. Right, so the pattern matching was not exhaustive over here when I was resolving type aliases too. Right, so if we have the context object, we just return the context object, or like the original type, whatever. Maybe there's more places. Oh, I forgot how slow is it to compile minikast. $46, that was incremental build. Yeah, we say context doesn't have fields, so like everything works. If I let me just comment this out, and I guess this also will complain though, right? Because over here, the type of this is also context, so I also am not allowed to do that. But let's see that everything else like that I can refer to this variable and I can pass it as an argument over here. Can this happen? No, we have the non-exhaustive match over here for the short type name. Context object is context. That doesn't work. All right. But in order to basically the field of a context is based on because this is an extensible struct actually. Yeah, it's an extensible one. but we should know about all of its fields. Yeah, we say expect context. Wait, what? Over here? Yeah, because this is the type check, I suppose. Also, type check impl over here, right? If we have a context object and we have the context object, then it's totally fine. That is not supposed to fail. The type checking. Okay, pattern match is not exhaustive over here. Make sure all types are defined. Right, context object. Nothing needs to be done here. Right. Yeah, context fields is that, but actually the context definition, shouldn't that be like one of the first ones? If I want to store it in the thing, yes. I guess what I need is to define that. Like this is me figuring out all of the context fields and creating this thing, yes. Which is context object. Like over here when I'm making sure that it's defined, right? Yeah, I think this needs to be done here. Let context is current context. So we are literally like creating this type here. But I also need to make sure that all types are defined for the context object itself. Which also means, wait, hold on. Yeah. Like I need... where's my type def? Over here, right? I need to make sure that all types are defined for the actual context object, right? Like that or something. And when I'm defining the context object, right? Like, so previously I was defining the type and then the context object is the last type to be defined. But now, since like technically I can have the context object stored inside of the other types, maybe I potentially want to define that context earlier. So we should have the types, right? I'm converting the type, right? But for no. Make sure all types are defined. Like, yeah, over here, right? We have the type of the field in the context object. Like in this case, I need to make sure all types are defined for this type, right? So before I can define the context object, I need to define all of the fields of the context object. Right. Wait, what is this not inferred actually? Isn't that weird? Oh, this is not inferred actually because this is an unused variable. We can get rid of that. Okay, hello world is working, right? Okay. So we can try to see the compiled C code. Here's what we have, right? So we have, yeah, so the main function is just initializing the context object. And then we are calling the, so the minikast main is a function, right? Here's my actual main, right? Which is done in the this is the minikast main, which is this one, right? So the first thing that we do is we are creating the context.someContext, right? Because this over here is the field basically of the context object, and this is equal to the hello world string. And then we are just calling the function foo using this context is both implicitly used and also explicitly passed as the argument to the function of the foo, right? This one. So we have the implicit one is passed by reference, but the explicit one we did it by this thing. Yes, nice, this is correct. And now this one, we just want to be able to get the fields of it. And in order to do that, that should be pretty simple, I think. When I am... So I have like the field type maybe somewhere function, field type, yeah, this one. So when we have the object type, I guess like we need to do a special casing of the object type, right? I'm just trying to figure out the type of the field, right? So we're saying that if object type is the context object, then it is a very special one, and we're just going to return let's say find context field type, right? So the field is string, and this should return. Why does it return string and the type? I'm returning context name. Yeah. This should just return the type, I guess. So this is basically the context name. So we have current compiler program context, we get the context name, and then we do this. And we just return the type, right? And this is just the diagnostic, which is huge. So we have the context name, and context type is equal to find context field, find context. Just say find context type, right? Find context type of the context name. There we go. And that's all. So in the... Is it inference? Yeah, we just return over here the find context type with the name being the field. And that's it. Oh, but the span though? Yeah, I guess I need to tell the span. Span... span is st span. And over here, the span is just field span. Okay. This might be it. And I might be able to compile this code. The semicolon here is not needed. I could not find context type here, right? Because this is now depending on the context, right? So we need to use import context ks, I suppose. That wasn't that difficult if it works. Okay, it works. We have 3 hello worlds. Okay, but okay, so because I'm basically copying the entire context, right? If we have that my current context is hello world, right? And then we say with some context is equal to overridden, right? If I try to do this code, then it's going to say overridden 3 times, of course, right? But if I say that the context here, like I can save the current context like this, I suppose now. And this is going to, so we're printing the current context, and the current context is the latest one that we had here, right? So overridden, but the one that I passed explicitly is the saved context, so we can save it now, right? Yeah. Yeah. But having the reference to it would technically not work if I have the reference to context. Is this correct syntax though? Yeah, I think I need to change the priorities of this a little bit for it to work. Yeah, but the reference context doesn't have fields, so now if we say context dot dereference and then some context, this is still going to be overridden 3 times because I'm just mutating the context then technically. But yeah, I think this is fine. I think this is fine. This is exactly what we want, right? Okay. So let's try this explicit context. Okay, but before I do that, maybe let's change the syntax a little bit. So I want the context object type and the context object itself, I think, to be the higher priorities, right? So yeah, like these ones are basically their own identifiers. They should probably be just 1,000, unless it's followed by a type, right? So this way I can do a reference to add context and reference to add context like this. Right? There we go. Just a little cleaner. Right? And like I said, because now we can say context dot some context, do I even need the current context syntax? Because this is now unnecessary at all. I'm going to keep it, but let me do a comment maybe to do unnecessary now, since can do context dot context type now. But I'm going to keep it for now. All right, explicit context for the type and the object respectively. Okay, so we push this. We go back to the yeah, and we should like be able to do this reference to context.state, right? Yeah. That's flake update cast. Wait, what did I just do? What did I just do? Did I just see a seg fault on Nix? Actually, I think I do, yes. But the reason is because I'm pressing a control backslash. Is that how Bad Cop did it? Like, core dumped. There we go. Maybe Bad Cop on accident did something. Basically, if you control backslash while Nix is doing the Nix thing, it's going to seg fault. Oh my god. Alright. Do you think we will eventually get to like doing the rewriting the Nix in cast? I don't know. Probably not. But I do want to have like some like I want to have like laziness somehow eventually too, because I feel like laziness, the way you see it in Haskell and in Nix, is a useful feature, especially for like configuration languages actually. I kind of want to try and do that in the in cast somehow without too much, without being too to something too verbose. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So we are literally just passing yeah, we're passing. So the frame implementation function, this is a function, this over here, it has the implicit context, which is the having the argument being the reference to the context technically. But let's make sure that I see the compilation error here when we compile for the web. Right, this is going to be a compilation error in C because we're passing the struct context, but we're expecting a pointer to the context instead, right? Incompatible function pointer types, passing void struct context star to parameter of em hour callback func. Oh, by the way, we need to have a different one, right? Because yeah, we need to have a different one. I guess I also maybe no, like, do I want sometimes to call the function and explicitly say what's the context? Like explicitly introduce the context sometimes, right? Because I need to not have this function but a different one. Right, because frame impl is a function which is, I guess, going to be C calling convention after all, right? But this one is having the context, which is a reference to context, right? So we do it like explicit instead of implicit. And over here we're going to, yeah, but also the context, because in order for this to work with the Imscripton, this is not the correct type, so we need to do a reference to any, which is a reference to void, and then I need to cast it, right? So we say that, so this is going to be context any, but then we can say that context is context any, right? Because now we can cast it like this. And now I need to call this function by passing this explicitly. Is there a way to do this explicitly in other languages with the context systems? I'm wondering about something like Odin. Explicitly pass context object. Is there a way to do that? Includes pointer to the current context as an implicit additional argument, right? That's like basically the same as we are doing. But I'm wondering if you can, yeah. Also, they just use the context as a keyword, I suppose. The first thing in Odin is to set all of the fields inside of a block and then call. But how will it work? Like, so, yes, like, I understand that, but that only works if your current procedure is already in the Odin calling convention, which introduces the thing. Also, it's going to mutate, by the way, the current context, right? So, like if I want to introduce the new context instead of mutating the current one, can I do that? Because if you explicitly set all of the fields and then call, you like outside of that function, which is doing that, you're going to do that. If you don't have a context yet, you do context is runtime default context. But what if you do this? Like what I'm saying is, what if you do this inside of a C? So like basically, I want a C calling convention function, which is going to call the cast calling convention function, right? Or like Odin calling convention function. Can I do that? Because like when you say context is equal to runtime default context, it is like, also it is like a little bit weird, because I would assume that context is equal to default context means that it's overriding, isn't the context even if there is no context? Yes. Right. So how does it do that though? Yeah, like basically it detects, right? Like because usually the context is a reference to the existing implicit variable, but in this case it is going to basically initialize that variable on demand, right? That's what we need to do. So I think I need that support too, right? Basically, I need to say that context, like maybe we do the same. Context is equal. Well, but it's not the context, you know? Because I want to change the pointer. I already have the pointer. I don't want to copy this, right? Like, what does the context even mean? As far as I remember, Odin has the automatic dereferencing of one level. Right? So when you say context is runtime default context. Okay, there we go. Explicit context definition. Procedures which do not use the Odin calling convention must explicitly assign the context if something within the body requires it. Right. So say context is runtime default context. So my question is, what is this? Does this return a pointer or not? Or is this like initializing the entire struct? You know what I mean? Because like if let's say that I have this C procedure which is having the pointer to the context but explicit one, right? That's what I'm trying to do here. I don't want to, yes. So like in this case, can I assign to a reference to context then? Right? Because I want to change the pointer. I don't want to change the value of the struct, right? Because we have what we have implicitly is the pointer to the context object as the argument, right? Not the struct itself. So I want to assign to reference, which is a little bit weird. You know what I mean? Like if I have an existing explicit reference. It eventually takes the address of the struct returned by default context. Does it? So are you saying that this returns the context struct, but this over here is a pointer still, right? What I'm asking for, I guess, is what is the type of the context? This is a special keyword, and is this the pointer or is this the struct, which is behind the pointer, right? Because the implicit argument is the pointer to the context. So this over here is magic, right? It's entirely outside of the type system. Well, not entirely, like it's a special kind of a type still, right? It's not entirely, it's like just a little weird. Implicit context system. Let me just read through this, right? The main purpose of the implicit context system is for the ability to intercept third-party blah 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 blah. Right? Yeah, this is copy the current scope's context, right? So C, right? So this is like referring to the value basically. Yeah, that makes sense. So there is no way to refer to the pointer itself, I think. So is it impossible to write this code that I'm trying to write in Odin? Right? So like what we want is to have a C function which takes the context explicitly and then it like converts it to the implicit argument. You need to get us to use assembly to get the context pointer, right? And you have inline assembly in and this too. Okay. It's very discouraged. Yeah, I mean, this is a very, very special case. Usually you would not be doing this. I do agree with that. but sometimes you do need to do that. This is a very special case. I agree with that. What about Jai? Can you, like in Jai also the context is, I think, the special keyword doing basically the same thing. But I don't know how, like, would you be able to do this in Jai or not? Those are the only two languages that I know that are doing similar things. Do you know any other languages with the context systems? So yeah, like I feel like it's weird. I mean, I can special case the reference to context here, but I feel like what we need to do, like, is to explicitly. I feel like I need to explicitly, like, initialize it, because I don't like you know how in Odin over here this is a little bit too much magic, right? Because usually when, like, usually for the variables which are like, what if you do this inside of an if too, in a function which is a C calling convention, right? Like, what it needs to do is basically, if there is any reference to the context inside of the function body, then it should almost like initialize that variable in the beginning of the body. Well, I mean, Odin doesn't go through the transpilation process, so maybe it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I think my context system is closer to Jai's, but yeah, like Jai's context is flexible, so you can like introduce your own fields, and in Odin it is just a fixed set of fields. But that's like the only difference, if I understand correctly. And we are doing the flexible stuff. Like, what should this be? I mean, the other option, like I said, is to have the special syntax to call, to do a function call with while specifying the context explicitly. Yeah, but I think it's better to do that. Yeah. The only magic in context is this, is that it allocates based on the stack of the caller, which is normally possible. Otherwise, it's basically just assigning a pointer. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's not even like allocates based on the stack. Like what I see this like context is equal to like some function that returns the context. What this would be done is that basically you say in C something like context new context is equal to this function call, and then you say that actual context pointer is equal to reference to this new context, right? That's what I would transpile it into. So you don't need anything special about this function call of the runtime default context, really, right? That's all that you need to do. Right. But the problem is, if this is the only syntax, like if this is not the function call, but something existing, right? So this is existing context. Right, so we say context, new context is existing context, which in my case is like context any, which means that like I'm going to copy it, right? So like say last new context is context any, like this. I'm going to just do cast here, and then we do the reference, right? Which, so like that is one of the ways to do that, right? But the problem is that I want to actually mutate the existing context, which is behind the reference, and this is going to instead introduce the new one, right? So I want to skip this indirection and assign to the pointer directly, saying that this is the context any. And so because of that, I need to have a special keyword, which is not the value of the context, but the reference of it. Right? So does it mean that I actually want the context reference to be a variable, which should be mutable? And it is not even initialized here in this function because it's a C calling convention. So I kind of want to I kind of want to say something like let, like this. Or we can also actually say, we can still say let context. We can say context is equal to context any dereferenced, right? But this is going to have a different thing, because if I say that the context assignment is a special language construct, right? Then it's not a real assignment, and this on the right side could be a place expression instead of a value expression, right? Which would introduce the reference here automatically. So we are referencing the dereferencing, which gets me back this pointer, right? Yeah, and then in this case, if I want to create a new construct, then this would be like a temporary variable, which would be automatically created before, and that's all that I need to do, actually. Yeah, I think that is all I need to do. And I think it should be done with a let. So I think I want a let context be context any. But in this case, if it's a let context, I kind of want this to be it's a little bit weird that I'm dereferencing it, so it looks like I am copying it, but I'm not. So maybe having the special syntax being this, it's a little weird syntax, but that would be very explicitly and obviously telling me what we're trying to do, right? So we are introducing a new context, and the reference to the context is this now. And if I wanted to create an actually new context, we would say new context is context, and this is whatever, you know? What intrudes context is being of type context, but structs can be implicitly passed by pointer in Odin, because parameters are immutable. Context is a special case, so you can still assign to it, but it changes just the pointer. Yeah. Let's save the pool because the context can never escape. Can it never escape, actually? Because you cannot specify the type explicitly. I kind of want the context to be escapable, I think, sometimes. Maybe. I mean, there is... Yeah. But in that case, you would need to copy the entire thing. For example, when you're spawning a thread, yeah, you cannot do return context because you cannot specify the return type, I would assume, right? Or can you specify the type of the context still? But if it did escape, it will be copied. Yes. I think that is perfectly fine. Why do you not allow it to escape, though? I think copying the context is perfectly fine, right? But you should not be able to return the pointer because that's like the local variable, and that would be not safe. Yes, in most of the cases. I want sometimes to store the context in a variable, right? Like to do like the async runtime, for example. I don't know if Odin has async or like if you can like implement it yourself there, but in order for async to work, you need the async task to hold the context, basically, right? Yeah, and the default context is just like a regular function that returns the context, yeah, because it's just not an implicit one anymore. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's like too magic. But yeah, so do you agree with this? This is a little bit weird. But yeah, I think this is a special syntax that I need to have. Why the two symbols? Which ones? There is let, there is reference, and there is the at. The at is there just so that I don't want the context itself to be the keyword because it's a good variable name. So I'm just saying at context because of that. I mean, I am using the CTX here, so it would be perfect, like fine, I guess. But I still don't like using the context as a keyword. Assigning to the address seems weird. Yes, it is weird. But I think it is less weird than just saying this. Because the context semantically means the value of the context and not the pointer, right? And then also we would say that the reference here then, which also makes you think that you're copying the context, but you are not, because we're supposed to do the reference. It is weird, but I think it's less weird than the other alternatives. I could make it with a different syntax, but the syntax being weird is telling you as the programmer what's actually happening, and like it's less magic that way, I think. I don't really like it too much, but I think it's fine. Like, and I don't like the fact that you can just implicitly initialize the variable too, like you have an Odin like this. I don't like that either. Because this means that we're mutating the existing context, but there is no existing context in this C calling convention function. Making context itself a pointer wouldn't work. Well, I mean, no, it would work, but I think it is not... Like, I mean, yeah, we could have this context to be the reference instead of the value, right? And when I want to pass it... So like over here, I actually want to pass it by reference, so I would say reference to context, but we would instead say just context. I mean, that would work, actually, yes. Do you think it's better if I have the context being a reference? Then we would just say that context is this, right? Because the type of this is not the context, is the type of this is a reference to context, right? Yeah. Do you think this is better? It's like a little bit weird though, because the type itself is the type of the struct, and the value is a pointer. So there's a little bit of like there's a little of inconsistency, right? Unless we say that the context type is also a reference type, but what if I want to store the actual value of the context? Because then I need to be like, because, yeah, like how do I specify the value then? If this also means the pointer. I think I'm going to go with this for now. But we might change this in the future. So I say let context, which is going to be let reference context to be equal to the thing. Initializing the context in cast could just be stack allocating the context struct and then assigning its address to context. Yes. But like, I mean, this is just like the syntactical thing, right? Which we could change, but yeah. That's what we're going to be doing, yes. If you are initializing it from scratch, then you would just create the value explicitly on the stack and then assign it using this syntax. But in this case, we already have the pointer. That's like the whole problem that I'm trying to solve. So yeah, apart from the syntax being a little bit ugly over here, but this is very niche anyway, so we might not care about that. You know what I mean? And I can do something like this, you know? Yeah, I can do like let context to be equal to uninitialized, which is basically to be a reference to new context, and then I say new context is uninitialized, right? Like I can do this. So yeah, and this is how I initialize the field then. And initializing the field then could be not like width, but like actually, yeah, like the width is like doing it for this duration of the scope though. So it's like, yeah. Do you have in Odin the assigning to the field of the context just for the duration of the scope? This is basically assigning to the field and then doing the defer, which is assigning back to the old value. Which could be made explicit instead, I suppose. Parse-let context. Export the context. Well, I guess like if you want something for the duration of the scope, you just copy the entire context. But the reason I don't want to copy the entire context is because unlike Odin, we have not a limited set of fields, but it is extensible and it might be a very big struct. So copying it is not very cheap anymore. Which is why we want to only do it for field by field, you know, and then undo the changes instead of copying the entire thing, which also could be the way to do it. Why is the type of context itself prefixed with an at sign? Just for consistency, I guess. And also because you want to have your own context. I am doing my own context, I guess, sometimes too. Because, like I said, I don't want it to be a keyword. Context is too good of a variable name. How is type different than the variable? It's the same. It's literally the same. The variable is at context and the type is at context. One of them is lowercase, one of them is uppercase. That's the only difference. It's literally the same. Yeah, types don't have their own namespace. Expression. So this would be expression, let context, right? Being, and this would be the actual expression, right? So we say the value is parse. Parse expression. So the expected type of the value is going to be a reference to the context object, right? And value is root is t helpers expect single child with no name then. And we do let context value. Okay, so we have a new type of an expression. Which is going to be a let context expression. Okay, and then in the C compiler, calculate expression. If I have let context value, new context pointer, I guess, is what we will have here. We're going to return void, but what we need to do, and to let var. So I will actually create a new context variable here, right? Context var. This new identifier context, right? And we say that current context scope context var. And over here I need to mutate it, and I think this is not implementing the bootstrap, where I need to like assign this to be context var. I don't think I can do that. Context is a common type name too. Yes, that's why I'm doing it with a net symbol. Which, like, similar to the current keyword here, right? Because current is a good variable name, so we prefix it with the net. Context pointer. Like, this is all that I need to do, technically. Well, I mean, this should be calculated, right? This should be, like, pure. Calculate this. And let var, this is the type here. The type here should be a reference to the context object. So this over here, it doesn't work in the bootstrap though, I think. And in order to fix that, we must do this. A context scope var identifier is this. I must do it through the indirection for now. Which I think is okay. So we do this dot ident now. So, and then over here we say this dot ident. And this over here is going to be ident is equal to that. Ident is equal to that. Ident is equal to that. Okay. I think that might be it. This might work. Okay, it's going to compile for a minute. And that's it. And this should work. After that. Dun, dun. No, unexpected value. It's a colon. Not an equal sign that is needed. Reference to expression is not this. Right, this is going to be a reference. Maybe I should like say that this is let context to reference specifically instead of let context. Let me rename this into let context ref. Okay. And then we'll do see this. Invalid initializer. Wait, what? We say struct context 63 is a reference to new context. Wait, why? What? What's the problem? Oh, yeah. Hold on. What? Why is it saying... So I'm having the new context, but this should be a reference to this struct context, not... Oh, yes, I need to say ref. There we go. That's the issue. Because this reference is a reference to the type, and this is the actual type that we're trying to construct. Makes sense. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to assume that it's going to work. Let context is new context. There we go. Oh wait, but is it going to work for the C functions? Function. Context. No, I always have the context variable, but I don't like have it. Yeah. It's a little weird. If I try to use the context inside of this C calling convention function, it's just going to complain on the C stage, not on the minikast stage, but that's okay. Okay, there we go. Overridden hello world, which actually means, so if you look at this code, right, I'm actually having the reference to the current context over here stored in a variable, and then we are creating a whole new context, which means that this is the reference to the original one, which has the hello world, and the other ones are just the overridden. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, nice. This works. Push. And over here we do like update cast, and this is just going to work now. Okay, a little less cursedness. The preserved frame function though, and yeah, that thing's is going to be different. Well, I mean, if this is a C function, then I can have a reference to, yeah, I can have a reference to like frame args, I guess. Frame args is going to be a struct which has the context, which is a reference to context, and we have the actual frame function, and this is going to be a function like this, so I don't need to have the global mutated thing. Instead we say that frame args, which is frame args, and this is going to be equal to dot context is reference to current context, and actual frame function is the frame. So this is like the lambda that we're passing here, and then we have a reference to the frame args as the argument here. So this is the args, frame args any, because we need to start with any, right? And then we say that frame args is reference to frame args is frame args any, and then we say that context is frame args dot context, and then we call the function which is called frame args dot actual frame function, right? And then we call that, yeah, just web. I think this should work. And no global state anymore at all. Okay, and then we do localhost 8080, 8081. Okay, and it works. Nice. Okay. I do like that. Apart from the syntax being weird, but this is good. Yeah, and then we can get rid of this syntax because now we can have this syntax instead. Right. Update minikast, fix the cursed context preserving on mscripton. Okay. I think that's all that I'm going to do for today. Here. So let's see who else is doing something. Jasper. Jasper's live. Advanced C programming on Linux. Sure.
Speculative execution, you've got better caching, replacement policies and stuff like that. But the principles remain the same. You know, SRAM versus DRAM and all this is still the same nowadays. Now, the latencies may have gotten better and the bandwidth may have gotten better as well, but the principles are still the same.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.
What is going on with ylib? Well, we added files to ylib.
Bye.
And I added my own memory allocation wrappers